Welcome. This is Barry Jones from the Angel School, and we're here for our weekly angel reading for March 29th through April 4th, 2021. So before I begin, I just like to welcome anyone who's new to my channel, and also, I was just sitting here thinking, it just dawned upon me, I don't know why, but that this is Holy Week and Passover. And it's really weird, especially since I started doing this. And, well, it's about, I think, the pandemic, it felt like it snuck up on me. We lost connection or with our normal calendar life, if you can say it that way. And so I was thinking about that for a moment, and it's weird, and then it's probably a good thing because it also means that we are opening up, we're detaching and opening up to a new world, right? A new world of possibilities, and a world that has always been changing and evolving, but that the changes, that unfold in terms of the planet and the things that unfold in our lives, and these are not neat patterns at all, right? And quite often those patterns get interrupted, and sometimes those interruptions are abrupt. Sometimes they are catastrophic, and sometimes they are subtle. And there's a lot of subtle shifts that are always occurring and unfolding. And so, and it's hard to embrace the impermanence of this physical life that we inhabit and within this physical world. And change is really the constant impulse behind all of that. And so, we're going through definitely a lot of shifts and changes. And so that's something that really sort of struck me, and it might be useful for us to kind of be aware of this as we are going through some pretty intense challenges. And I want to talk about that in maybe in a little bit, but we'll see how things go when we actually just sort of tune in and see where it's going. But just before I do that, I do want to just take a moment to just say, first of all, because there are some intense things going on in my life in the last couple of weeks, I will be getting to the monthly angel scope hopefully this week. So it's going to be a little late. It may not. But I just want to put that out there so that you understand. And then also I will be continuing with the my angel readings for the special offer for $77. My half-hour reading will be extended to be 1 full hour. And so you can go to my webpage, theangelschool.com. On the services page, you just click on the link as it normally is, a $77 half-hour reading. Within 24 hours on the first business day, I will send you a confirmation email. And just make sure you check to make sure it hasn't gotten caught up in spam or something like that. And even if you don't want to set up an appointment right away, because you don't. I mean, it's there forever. You can just let me know that you got your email, so that way I'll know that you got the confirmation email. And again, there are no restrictions, and there will be instructions to set up your availability for a session, to submit your availability to me so that I can give you an appointment. So don't worry about the thing on my website that it doesn't work. And yeah, and there are no restrictions and limitations with being able to sign up for a reading with this special offer. All right, and there was something else going through my mind, but yeah, and the daily card messages will also be available for you. Okay, there was just something else, but I think it was just something I wanted to say to you personally, but it's escaped me. Okay, maybe it'll come back to me. All right, so yeah, so let's take a deep breath right now. And as I was saying, it really has been an intense time. And what I saw was, for myself, these patterns. So you're probably going to be noticing, because remember what they talked about, that this past month was about this crossroads in our life, right? And they tell us to breathe, and that message came through the monthly readings, and it just kind of came into the weekly readings. It's like this idea that the decisions we're making in this month, the things that were happening this month, are even putting us in a position to really make some life-altering decisions, that will have an impact on our future outcomes. And so this month is very important. And now, you can't really get all like, okay, what do I need to do to tackle that? I mean, of course, you can, be mindful, about that. But what I discovered for myself was that it was like something I've been dealing with, through most of my adult life since I left home. And it's just, it pops up every now and then. It can sometimes have where it's a little bit more frequent. It's a huge soul lesson, it's a huge challenge. And it just started to really, like every event in the last 2 weeks just kept highlighting it. And one of the things that was so strange, because I really all of a sudden had this sense that when the people, whether it was a family member or friends or strangers that I was talking to about it, and when they all said the same thing to me, which was, let it go, or you got to learn to detach. And every event that started to unfold that really annoyed me, it's those things that it triggers you, but it's also in the line of frustrations or things that you easily go into a panic about. And it just came up and repeatedly. And then I sat down, and every day, I did sort of mindful tarot mini sessions to just really look at what needed to be healed, what I could do to improve on that, and then even like what might be the likely outcome if I proceed with that, and then if I needed additional support about that, like, well, if it wasn't something that was going to turn out to be as successful, then what could I do in a way to focus on it, that I could get a better outcome. Now, the idea is we have to understand that when we say we want to see what that likely outcome, and how to influence that, you're understanding that you're embracing any amount of being able to move the needle, so to speak. And you have to understand that you're not going to just move the needle like all the way over there. I mean, if that's what's coming through, but it helps you to find a level of acceptance when looking at it from that perspective. Like, what is the likely outcome? And but it was just so impactful and insightful, and I was able to just work through. And some days I had to change, just from what do I need to heal to I had to change it to whatever the situation was, and sort of altered a little bit, and it just kind of unfolded intuitively. But I was able to really see this for what it was, and it's sort of like the conclusion, and this is just going to be so anticlimactic for you, but and it's still not. It's incredible, but like I came to the realization that what these things were was just an illusion, that I just keep giving into them, and but for the first time I saw, and I don't fully understand why I understand this, but that's where it all led me, to see that this is my ego's illusion. And we have to be aware of one of my teachers, the one I mentioned last week, but I didn't mention her name, Kim Sear, called these, with the Faraday cage, she called these ego addictions. And where these little things, your ego finds that, it's addicted to, like habits and little things that kind of get to you. Like, things that irritate you or frustrate you, your pet peeves, these kind of things, are really ego related. And so we have to, it's the way that we attach. They keep us, these little addictions engage us in the illusion. They engage us in the illusion. It's not, if we didn't engage them, if we could detach from them, if we could see that they're just being, this is something we're using to just hold ourselves back, to give us that sense. It's an excuse that our ego creates. And as long as you feed into those things, then you're totally giving all of your resources, your energy, and your time to these ego addictions, which is why we feel like we're always in a karmic pattern. Why these things keep coming back up, because we keep giving into the triggers. So just be aware of what those things are that really are coming up for you and keep repeating, and it seems like you thought you got away with it. Not that you got away with it, but you thought you're done with it. Maybe sometimes you think you got away with it. That slipped out. And and then it'll lie low, and you're thinking, good, got that. And then all of a sudden it pops up again. It's not that something is after you. It's just that you respond the same way every time. You let it get to you in the same way. It's just as if somebody was teasing you about something, and they know how to push that button. And I don't know if this makes sense in this moment, but see, we can choose, when we see that somebody's teasing us, we can choose not to be triggered by that person or another person who would do the same thing. We can choose. But when it seems to be like our ego, or it's just you and yourself, right? And you can't seem to make better choices, maybe because there's no one to duke it out with. But it's the same idea. You would say, okay, I'm not dealing with that person. I'm going to stay away from that person. You would try to you could see it more clearly, possibly, why this person is able to do that. And if you weren't so emotionally involved, but then it's that those are the ropes. I remember when I was teaching, I went to a workshop, and this the teacher that was leading the workshop said, "Don't pick up the rope." She told us, "Don't pick up the rope." Like, you got this kid, and he's sitting there, and he's just tapping his pink, and it's just irritating you. Like, the things that irritate you, don't pick up the rope. Find another way to deal with that situation in a way that's compassionate. Of course, she talked about that because number one, it was a Catholic school, so we talked about things like that. But she helped us understand that this kid, this is XYZ may be going on, and you may need to do XYZ. But the thing is, it's the same thing here. Don't pick up the rope, and then try to think about this situation, this trigger for you, in a way that is compassionate. Because it'd be compassionate for you to not pick up that rope than to pick it up and to throw yourself into a situation that you do not desire and is not worthy of you, and causes you to feel that you're not deserving or worthy of all the wonderful things that you're capable of. So don't pick up the rope. Those irritations, and I don't know, it's really weird. I don't know if this is what she meant by ego addictions, but I'm sure it's deeper than this. But to me, it's the triggers, the things that irritate you, like that frustrate you, your pet peeves. These are the little small things that your ego has built to form an attachment with you, so that you, in that moment, when we're in a situation, in a moment, and we have a choice, you choose your ego over your higher self. So the only way to build this foundation with your higher self is to truly figure out how you're going to respond differently to whatever is triggering you all the time. Even if it's something as simple as, I'm going to breathe first, or I'm going to go write, or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to, do yoga, or I'm going to exercise. I'm going to do anything. I'm going to go outside and breathe fresh air. I'm going to go, I have a special tree that I'm going to sit underneath, and I'm going to ask that tree to download the wisdom and insights that are available to me. Whatever it is, you need to do that. You need to set that in place. And then you need to think about, and try something different. Just don't pick up the rope, basically. And it's about understanding that if you do pick up the rope, there's going to be a certain outcome. If you don't pick up the rope, there's going to be another outcome. And it's a way of starting to break that pattern. But the emotions that are involved in all of this, that's that's a hot mess, right? The emotions. That's what makes it all the really hot mess. But at the same time, those emotions is also what makes life full, right? I mean, without our emotions, we have no way of, of feeling and connecting with life in the way that we do. I mean, even in those difficult, horrible times, boy, you've had a life, right? I mean, when you look back over things that you've been through, and you can say, with some years and distance, gosh, I had a life. I mean, the things I've learned, the things I've been through, the things all of that has caused me to want, and the things I wouldn't have done if those things had not happened. And ultimately, that sense of being blessed is what kind of just keeps us motivated, right? And to want to just stay in it. And yeah, it just all of a sudden seems worth it. But anyway, yeah, it's so we're going through these really, really intense times, and I think we're all going through it. We're all feeling it, and we've come out of the biggest parts of it, of what we've been doing. And another thing I discovered too, and I may have mentioned this last week, is that we've been really hurting each other, and that's what we're feeling right now. So because we have shifted, we're feeling everything. As we elevate in frequency, we become more in tune to the truth, reality, on a spiritual level. So that idea, what you do unto others, you've done it unto me also, idea is going to get real. So that's why we don't want to respond emotionally in a negative way, because the impact of what we put out there is coming back to us. And the impact of what we're doing collectively is also coming back to all of us, so that we will no longer, eventually we'll get tired of doing things that we know we shouldn't be doing because we're feeling it, right? And a lot of that is going on right now. So there's just a lot for us to really, there's a lot that's helping us. The technology of the higher dimensions of consciousness is making it much clearer to us what we've been working with when we have been really relying on the platform of our ego to guide us. And the effects of that, now we have to feel it. And it will make it easier for us to stop doing those things. So sort of truth, clarity kind of moment. All right, so let me take a look at the Archangel message that's coming out. All right, so we have Archangel Jeremiel, and this is the card titled Overcoming Difficulties. And it says the worst is behind you now, and you are surmounting any previous challenges. So this is, I don't know if you remember, I said earlier in the year that this is sort of like going to be the life review. So it's sort of like last year was the breakthrough year, and the obstacle courses that we had to go through to help us to detach from that world that we lived before. And the virus was one of the biggest obstacles on that course, right? And then after that, it's sort of like that was sort of like a spiritual death. And then with this year, it's sort of like a life review. And so we now have to come into alignment with our divine blueprint. We have to see ourselves. So that life review is like we have to see ourselves, but we have to see it all. We have to see it from all the facets of perspective. That your soul is seeing every event from every facet through every one. Now, I don't know how that could be achieved through our finite physicality, but this sort of awakening awareness and in pursuit of integrity, spiritual integrity, and clarity, honesty, that to help us to give up these things, right? So once we have clarity, we can give it up. We can really let go. So this is how we're gonna overcome those difficulties. This is how they're helping us, because we have to make the choices. We collectively have to do this together. And it starts one by one. One by one. Even if you don't feel like you're called to change the world, but you will, by just the changes that you make within yourself, the realizations that you have affects the whole network of oneness, because there is truly no imbalance, greater or lesser than power within oneness. There are just various expressions of it working in different ways. I was going to say levels, but I don't want to throw off this inequality aspect of oneness, of the divine, because each one of us is an extension of it, an expression of it, working in a specific way to help the divine plan unfold. So that's why we really have to embrace where we are, who we are. That's why we have to embrace everyone else. Whether you disagree with who they are or not, they're still fulfilling their part of the divine plan. Okay? All right. So let's take a look at the card for the beginning of the week. And I know this reading is a little different, but I'm trusting that this is the way it needs to unfold. So we have the World card. And so this is about completing a cycle, right? This is the end of the fool's journey. And the thing about it, we don't have the wreath, the circular, but it always looks like a gateway, but the clouds look like it looks like he's about to step through. And it's like purifying, like he's illuminated with light, and he's stepping through a portal or vortex. And this is what all of this that we were just talking about is for. This is in one way, these things, events that are coming up, and all these things that, like, around these certain triggers that you had, or something that you've been working on, most of your adult life. Now you're at the point. This is the crossroads where you're ready to graduate. You're at the threshold. And also what you have to realize, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to say this because I'm going through it with you, right? Because I'm still human. But this is what I think I meant when I discovered it's an illusion. Because if we can unpractice our attachment to these triggers by just no longer giving it that kind of space and time and emotional value in your world, in your universe. You could step through that portal at any time. We could have stepped through it a long time ago, individually or collectively. But we were afraid to give up our ego. We didn't know we were talking about our ego, but we were afraid to give it up. I was just chatting with someone last night, and you know, it was we were just sitting there going, okay, well, what was happening is that the person realized that they were afraid to give up what's familiar, even though they're miserable in that. But they're afraid to trust that could be something better and that it could be fabulous. It could. They were afraid of what could be because they don't know it and they don't know if it's possible. But they do know the misery that they're living with. And it's like, our ego, that when we feel almost at home with our misery, when we feel that sort of comfort, like a comfy blanket thing, that's the ego addiction. That's the attachment. That's the unhealthy relationship that's been built. That's like, and please forgive me if it offends someone, but that's what, the person who's addicted to a substance, it's that thing, it's that connection, that dependency. And that's why I would think we call it an ego addiction, because we can understand what addiction is. Those of us who either been through it or we've experienced it through someone else, or we just have an awareness of it. And especially when we lack compassion for people who have addictions, we can see that the root of all of that is the ego addiction that I'm talking about, and we all have it. This is why we can all be compassionate. Even if we don't understand it, we can be compassionate about it. And and we just don't want to let it go. We have been deceived by all of that familiarity and comfy, and I can curl up in my misery. I know what it is, I know what to expect, kind of thing. And change, oh my God, forget that. That's like over the top, kind of. It's like I can't trust that. I don't know what that is. What am I going to do with that? That sounds like talk to me. I mean, this is how our ego will react to that. Because you got to remember, your ego's not evil. It's not bad. It's not on purpose trying to sabotage you. It's afraid. It's afraid. And probably one of the biggest things you can help yourself in terms of paying attention to triggers is fear. Trying to change the way you respond to fear, to a new opportunity, to a new world. Try to find a lesser way to be afraid. Don't try to go all out. Just try something slightly different. Because in that way, you will show yourself it's not as bad as it looks. It's not as bad as you think. It's not as bad as it feels. And that's where you'll start to realize, this is an illusion. All right, let's take a look at the card for the middle of the week. And this is interesting. In all major arcanas, which is telling us this is impacting our lives on that larger scale. This is where we're working at that level, and that's world universal achievement there in terms of spirituality. And this comes with that traditions, because the Hierophant here represents the traditions, the things that we're used to, the things that give us that comfort, whether it's our religion, or our institutions. Some people, we use all kinds of things. We turn everything into what am I looking for? We kind of turn everything into this something to cling on to, our traditions, our values. And I'm not saying that we should just throw them all away, but we do need to, you know, re-examine them, right, from time to time. And sometimes we have to throw things away and keep, and then there are things we keep. I never forget when I was 18 and I started school, and I grew up, in Southern Baptist Church, and all of my friends, let's be honest, were my grandmother's peers, because I just resonated with them from the time I was little. The wisdom I didn't know what the word was, but I identified this expression from a toddler. I made a decision that every time somebody was having that kind of interaction, that I needed to be there. And so, anyway, I had to sit down and say, okay, wow, I learned a lot, but this is too much for the people I'm learning to be friends with in college. And so I made a list one day, just sat down and wrote down everything that I, have been taught, and what things were clashing, and what things were not, and what things that really I could never let go of because they were too important to who I am and who I might possibly be. I really did do that. And then it gave me, I interacted, had a whole new interaction. I was mindful not to just blurt out those things that might sound judgmental. So it's important that we do at this time realize that if we're going to graduate from this difficulty, these challenges that we're perpetuating, that we have to re-examine who we are, and the things that we. So when I look at her, she almost looks like a stone structure, doesn't she? She doesn't even look real. She's just like a model of it, or a representation, ideology, and we have to be careful that we don't allow ourselves to get molded and become so and stagnant, become like a statue that never changes, no matter how much weather. The only thing that can really affect it is the weathering of it, right? So we have to be careful, that because we are human beings, we're spirit, and we are physical earth, and everything evolves and changes, right, over time. All right, so we have another major arcana card. This is just, really huge here. So this is the Emperor. And one aspect I'm getting is a sense of a new foundation, a new, with these ascension colors of Archangel Metatron, the orange, and look at this beautiful white light in the center. There is we have a potential to establish a new spiritual foundation, and we have the ability to create a whole new reality. So, be aware of what you're creating. With the Emperor here, be aware of what you've been creating, because this is going to be so important to what you're able to shift through. Okay? So even the awareness is enough to help you to move forward. The awareness is enough to help you to move forward. So be open in this week to new possibilities for yourself. And and this also just gives me a sense of you feeling more secure. Maybe by the end of the week, things just sort of settle down, the energy. Maybe hopefully this week, at the end of the week, things will calm down, as we do have this message of overcoming challenges. And this might be that you overcome a major hurdle. And we're not saying that life is going to be smooth and easy from here on out. That's just not how it works. But we also know that we would not be as blessed without without life and its variety. So we bless the opportunity to get over whatever is really unnerving us at the time, and then we keep, we ride that momentum. We don't worry about what could go wrong next. Just ride the momentum that you're given. All right, so let's take a look at the card that I pulled from the bottom. It's our first minor arcana. And this is the Six of Pentacles. What I find interesting about this card, and especially since we're talking about this, and because this card usually shows that exchange, that recognizing that we need each other, that we have resources to help others, that in helping others we help ourselves too. I mean, it's always a balance. It's always this equality. There's another thought that came to me, but anyway, I'll go. In this card, it's interesting because the person is standing high above them, which is not abnormal in the traditional depiction of this card. However, the people really around it look as if they are, really struggling. Now, he's got all the money, and he's starting, you can see it faintly, you may not be able to see it here, but it's sort of flowing down. But it's interesting, it's firmly in his hands, and it's almost like air thoughts. Well, I'd like to release it. I'd like to release this, and but be aware that it's almost one thing, like, don't do things for show, right, as well. Because, the people around us are really suffering, right? And people are suffering for different reasons. And I know this card is talking about, it looks like all about the money, but, these figures in the background are suffering. Some of them could be wealthy like him, but they're suffering for other reasons. They're, it's almost like I feel like these people are suffering in silence. And so I feel like we need to reach out to people, to be aware when people, especially during these times, that when don't go by appearances, because he may be standing here, but he's got to feel lonely and isolated, right? Because he's in this higher position, and it also makes it difficult for him to be able to say, I need help, right? Like, I felt that way in this week, because you can think to yourself, oh, but I'm not supposed to have any problems. But, that's that's a lot of crap, right? So, and so, everybody's going through something. And we all have abilities and gifts that can support people. And just because you might feel that you don't have, let's say, money that can help somebody, and you may think that you're the most unworthy person because you lack so many things, yet your soul has so many advantages, so many gifts to contribute. And so don't underestimate your heart when it reveals to you a way to help somebody, even if it just shows you that somebody's hurting. Don't think that you don't have words or something that can help them to get it back on their feet, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally. And it's just not about the physical, but you got to remember, when you affect people on those other levels, you are helping them physically. because the body and will start to just sort of contract in terms of its normal healthy expression when those other levels are affected. And so your words or your kindness is a tremendous boost. Okay? And I did experience that. I think I was alluding to that earlier. My brother, like, all of a sudden, it was just like, and several people in this week, the strangers, it was like all of a sudden, like my brother and I've had conversations forever, but I saw he was talking to me. He was talking directly through me. It was like spirit was talking through him to me. And this happened throughout the week, and it was the most 2 weeks. It was the most tremendous blessing to me. So be open to this kind of kindness. I really felt like the angels, the universe, was reaching through and communicating directly to me. And that was so nice for someone who's always doing that for others, to have it happen unexpectedly, and didn't even realize it was happening. Probably they didn't realize it was happening. They were just all of a sudden just in that moment being themselves. So I send you lots of love and angel blessings. I wish you, every bit of happiness. Enjoy this week of holidays, wherever you are, and whatever tradition that you are celebrating. And I look forward to talking to you next week, and God bless you.